Councilmember Cortez.
Here.
Councilmember Cartwright.
Here.
Councilmember Ring.
Here.
Councilmember Nisley.
Here.
Mayor Youngblood.
Here. Would anybody like to adopt the agenda?
I move.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cortez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ring.
Yes.
Councilmember Cartwright.
Aye.
Councilmember Nisley.
Yes.
Mayor Youngblood.
Aye. All right. Are there any recognitions or proclamations for anybody on at the dais tonight? No? Danny, you have any? No. You have any?
There are none tonight, Madam Mayor.
Well, I didn't know if there were any from up here. Okay, cool. All right, matters of interest. Anybody?
Yeah, I have a couple here. On December 17th this year, we're going to be 40 years old. It'll be 40 years that we've been incorporated. So I would just like to bring that discussion back and talk about maybe doing something for that. And then I think the chamber is going to talk about the state of the town on September 25th. And then remind everybody that the League of Women Voters of Placer County is sponsoring a candidates forum for our town council on Thursday, October 10th.
Okay. David, do you have anything?
Can you, I don't, but the state of the town you said was the 25th of September, and then the candidate forum was the 10th, okay, October 10th, got it. Is the League of Women Voters doing that again? Okay, thank you.
Okay, to summarize, the state of the town, I believe, does everybody have a flyer or just was it us? Okay, so the state of the town, oh, sorry. Okay, the chamber, yes, you will go ahead and talk about that, but yeah. And then we're having our public safety fair on the 28th, which is that following Saturday from 11 to 3 p.m. Hopefully you guys can all come out. We finished the flyer. Carol did it. It's amazing. And we're very excited. We're going to have a lot of vendors and partner agencies of that nature, and it should be a lot of fun. So, and very educational, and yeah. So there you go.
And where is that?
Oh, it's right out front here.
Okay.
It'll be an opportunity that if you miss it, don't know what to say. You should come. All right. Danny?
I
You
don't
have
have
anything?
anything.
Amanda? Okay. So then I guess we'll just move to the town manager report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, I just want to highlight one item out of the manager report. As always, it's included in the agenda for everybody to read at their leisure, and I can answer any questions related to what's in it. I just want to highlight tonight that we are moved forward with the recruitment for the finance director. We received 4 applications. We had 6 pretty qualified, and we narrowed it down to the top 3 candidates. We'll be doing interviews next Monday on the 16th, and we're hopeful at that point we will be able to make a selection out of there. And the goal is to have someone onboarded by mid-November, if possible.
Wonderful.
And with that, Madam Mayor, I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions up here? Okay.
No, but I do want to thank you so much for staying on, Lori, and helping through all of this back and forth. But I really, really appreciate it. You've added a lot of stability, and we are very grateful.
So you're good, right? We're good. That was short and sweet. Excellent job. Okay, so then we're at the Loomis Library and Community Learning Center Librarians Report.
All right, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to, as always, give you some information about some of the events that we have coming up in the next month or so. To start off with events for adults, we have our UC Master Gardeners monthly workshop at 10:30 on September 14th. That's this upcoming Saturday. And the topic for that is going to be native plants for habitat gardening. On September 24th, that's a Tuesday at 6 o'clock, we're going to have our Spice Club. The topic for that is going to be Morocco, specifically the spice Ras El Hanout. And then on September 28th, we're going to be doing a craft for adults called Tote-a-ly Totes, where we're going to be decorating tote bags. So if you're interested in that, that's at 2:30. Registration is required so that we know how many people to prepare for. So if you're interested in that, please remember to register for it. And then on October 1st, Tea of the Month is coming back. I know a lot of people have been asking every month throughout the summer, is Tea of the Month back? Is Tea of the Month back? And so we're very excited that it's coming back in October. Just remember that that's while supplies last, so it could be for a week you could come in and get your tea sample and learn about a new tea every month. Could be a few days, it just depends on how fast it goes. For kids, we of course have our story time every Friday at 10:30. On September 18th, we have Japanese story time at 10:30. We have Manga Club on September 21st at 3 o'clock, and our Read to a Dog on September 28th at 10:30. For family events, we have NorCal Bats on September 21st. That is a registration required. They're going to be live bats. It's going to be really cool. We only have a few slots left, so if you're interested, please call the library. We have 10 or fewer spots right now. And then we're really excited on October 1st, we're going, and really for the entire month of October, we're going to do a scarecrow contest.
Oh, that's
And so we're going to have work days throughout the month of October, and we're going to be awarding prizes at the end of the month for most creative, scariest, a literary character, Loomis Town Spirit, and best overall. So we're really hoping to get some good submissions for that. And then some other notable dates throughout this month. On this upcoming Saturday, the library will close at 2 o'clock for a strategic planning session. And then on September 17th, that's next Tuesday, at 6 o'clock, we will be closing it for another strategic planning session. This one, though, will be open to the public from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So if people want their voices heard about what they want to see at the library over the course of the next 5 years, I encourage anybody who's interested in that to come at 6 o'clock on September 17th. And then on October 5th, we will be closed for the Fruit Shed Fest. We'll have a booth at the Fruit Shed Fest, so come and visit us there. And then finally, I just wanted to end by saying September is Library Card Sign-Up Month. And so if you do not have a library card yet, come on and see what it's all about and get your library card. It's a great time to do it. All right, I can answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Thank you, Sarah.
All right, thank you.
Just how many times did you have to practice all those great names to get them right?
A lot.
Good job. All right, so now we have the chamber update.
Good evening. Okay, I also have some save the dates for you. Our next monthly mixer is going to be September 19th at the library in the garden. So come out, we're gonna do some tacos out there, so it should be a fun evening. That is going to be 5:30, so we'd love to see you out there. We also, as they mentioned before, we've got the State of the Town event. There's flyers on the way out if you need to grab one. And that is going to be Wednesday, September 25th at 5:30. Doors are going to open at 5 o'clock. It is open to the public, so everyone is welcome and encouraged to come. Just please RSVP on the website. If you go to theloomischamber.com, on the calendar there's a little link on there that says RSVP here, and it's just kind of to get a head count for us. And then we've got our normal Coffee Connect the Thursday, October 3rd, and then the last one I have on the schedule right now is the Fruit Shed Fest, which is October 5th. It's going to be 10 to 4 here in the Train Depot parking lot. We've got a ton of fun things planned. The Kids Zone is going to be amazing this year. We're so excited about that. We've got over 100 vendors confirmed already. A really good mix of variety from informational to the good crafts and local beer and wine and all kinds of good stuff. Tons of food trucks. So we love to see you guys out there. Do you have any other questions?
Excellent first job.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so then we're going to do the Allied Agency Activities Update.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you so
Hi.
much for the time today to be able to speak to you and give you a little information about what we're doing in the district. We'll start out with our call volume. Approximately 330 some calls this year, or this month, last month. 220 are medical, the balance of them are good intent and assistance calls with a few fires, 11 I believe. We'll go to the next, hold on, we'll stop. Our trouble area moved a little bit closer to the freeway this month.
Oh.
Less here, more over there. So, next slide please. 341, 65% fire, or 65% medical. Like I said, bulk majority of them are good service and intent calls. 24, which are helping people up, helping them with issues in their home. So you can see for the most part, about 85% are helping medical type issues. We're staying in track with what we do month after month, year after year. Pretty consistent. Next slide, please. Here in the town of Loomis, we stretched a little this month. I think we had a couple long responses into some deep areas, so our total time from pickup to phone to the time we get to your house was at the 90th percentile, just short of 9 minutes. Overall in the district was 855. You can see Station 20 runs a little higher because they're up here on Auburn, Folsom, and King running into the deep woods. Next slide, please. We have a meeting tomorrow, September 11th, for our district board meeting. We have a couple of open board positions in the town of Loomis. In case you're not aware, nobody signed up to run for our board, and so how that works now is the Board of Supervisors will appoint 2 positions. And so if anybody has somebody that would be a good fit for our district and would be interested in the role, please get a hold of me, and I'd love to talk to them. We just completed our strategic plan about 2 weeks ago, and we'll be bringing that to our board in the October meeting for approval and adoption. There's a lot of great stuff in there, 5 new initiatives. I'm super excited about them. We'll talk about those a little more at our next meeting. We have a new water tender that was purchased through a grant from the federal government. They covered about 85% of the cost, which is fantastic. That is being trained on right now and should be put in service by the end of the month. With that, September is National Preparedness Month, so make sure you're out there getting prepared in case of, hopefully fires are over, although it's a super busy time of the year right now. We still have a burn ban in effect, so please no burning yet. And as you get prepared, start thinking about what happens in the winter. I think last year we had a little bit of a power issue running down the main street there, so those are the things that we'd like you to get ready for while you still have it. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Your slides, as always, are excellent. May I utilize those at this day of the town?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if you want
Same with yours, if that's okay.
if you'd like updated information for like year to date or a 12-year running total, let me know.
I would
and
love
I'll
that.
Be able to
It'd be great
provide
if you
those
could
for
do that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else?
What is a water tender?
Great question. So it's a piece of apparatus that has, this one I think is just shy of 4,000 gallons of water, and essentially it's a portable fire hydrant. So in the areas that have limited or no water, we take that with us and park it next to the fire engine so they can put out a fire. Because the engines have somewhere between 5 and 750 gallons,
And how much did the water tender hold?
close to 4,000.
Okay.
So significantly more.
Yeah. Okay.
Critical in our more remote areas.
And do you ever just take it out and spray down? Do you ever just open up the hoses and just
Sure.
have fun?
We do it for training fairly
For training?
frequently.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and if and we talked about the pancake breakfast in conjunction with the Fruit Shed Fest. If you want to wander over there, we actually have a couple of our apparatus set up, and we have some props that the kids can squirt water at. So if you want to
cool.
get the full experience, it's for the young and old alike. So, yes, absolutely. Anything else? Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll start with the stats and I'll go through the stuff that I have. Okay, so for the month of August, I'll just go down the stats on starting on the left-hand side. We had 301 total incidents in the town of Loomis. Reports taken 34, and then transient-related activity 3. I'll work on the right side column next. Suspicious calls, activity calls 28, disturbance calls 9, alarm calls 25, and traffic stops 67.
Wow.
Looks like we're citizen calls for service versus deputy initiated went up just a little bit, so a little bit more on the citizen's part, but usually it stays around that range. Priority calls, these are just broken down into 9 categories. When you dial 911 and the dispatcher takes the information and associates a level of urgency behind it, and you can see the numbers associated with that. And it's just a pie graph for that. These are the top 10 dispositions for calls for service in the town of Loomis. So contacted no crime was 182, probable cause stop 33, reports taken 26, unable to locate was 19, false alarms 12, assist, so that's with like another agency, either fire or another police agency, is 12, cites 11, arrests 4. The numbers are all up just a little bit. Canine assist 2. So those are our stats for August. I kind of went through them. If you have any additional questions, go ahead and ask afterwards. And I'll just go down my list of things. This month, the school's back in session. We hired 2 new school resource officers for the entire county, which in turn helps us a little bit with alleviating some of the workload that the SROs have currently. When we go down, we just don't not go to that school anymore. That gets distributed amongst all the SROs. And so with hiring 2 people, it definitely helped out quite a bit. So just know that increased traffic around the town, as you guys could probably see from the summertime until when school starts, traffic increases on our service streets. And then just know that we're always working on improving traffic situations and traffic flow on all of our schools. We're constantly working on improving that. I know Richard and I took a drive and looked at all the schools in the town just to see what we can do to improve that stuff. So that working relationship with the town, law enforcement, and then the schools is always like a daily conversation and trying to improve that. So that's the schools. Just wanted to highlight our investigation unit, which is great because the town of Loomis benefits from having a large agency with a large investigation unit. When something occurs, all hands on deck occur. And that was evident with 2 recent high-profile cases that we had. The first one was the firearm store in Newcastle was broken into or burglarized over the night, and a large number of firearms were stolen. They made an arrest within the week of the suspects that broke into the place. So fantastic work on their part. We also had a murder in North Lake Tahoe, and also arrest was made within the week. That included going into the state of Nevada and having good working relationships with out of state, other jurisdictions that are not even in our state. So kudos to them. Michael Davis Jr.'s 10-year anniversary is in October. So we'll be putting something together for that. So that'd be something I'll probably bring up next month also, but I bring it up because it's on the horizon. We're constantly working with everyone involved with the Fruit Shed festival, and so making sure that that's a safe, family-friendly atmosphere event in our town. That's our number one concern is safety and making sure that everything goes according to plan, right? So we're working with that, going to the meetings for that, and then it is parade season coming up. So heads up on the traffic in regards to homecoming on a Friday, and then Band Spectacular would be a few weekends later on a Saturday morning. Both fantastic parades, highly recommended if you haven't been to them. And then, let's see, I have 2 more things. I began teaching at the schools again, so if you know of any teachers or schools that have yet to participate in it, which are getting fewer and fewer. I just got contacted by a few more schools, so we're slowly getting out to the entire county, which is fantastic. It was developed in Loomis and is being branched out through the entire county, which is awesome, and reaching a bunch of kids. So that's good. So that program's starting back up this year with school starting. And then finally, I just wanted to add in there that I did get to go to the Loomis Library and read again. So fun event. I think in total we are finishing the year with 3 events, which I think were a success, which is a great community outreach project. I think that we can reach all ages, everyone in town. So it's a fantastic thing. So I think I just went a million miles a minute. So any questions?
No? Okay, no questions? Thank you so
Okay.
much, as always. Okay. You okay, Jenny? Bad chair, it's contagious. Okay. So now we're at the point of public comment for items that are not on the, and not, I can't talk, not on the agenda, outside of the stuttering. So basically, as you guys know, we may not comment, and you have a 3-minute rule. Come on up. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good
and
evening.
Council members and town staff. I'm Deborah Crosby. I'm a Loomis resident. I'm also on the committee to extend the quarter-cent sales tax. Yes, for Measure C, Fund Loomis Library. We are at that point in our campaign. Ballots will be mailed on October 7th, and many people do mail on ballots right away. So now is the time for us to reach Loomis voters to help them understand what this measure is about. So we have 2 important things happening. There's going to be 2 training sessions to discuss how to canvass your neighborhoods, how to talk to Loomis voters about Measure C, and we have tons of great handouts for people to understand what this measure is and is not. So Thursday, September 12th at 6 p.m. and Saturday, September 14th at 9:30 a.m. Both sessions will be held at the High Hand by the brewery in the boardroom. So you can come, you can pick up a packet of things that you can use to talk to your neighbors and help them understand more. And then September 21st is the first day that lawn signs can be put up in town. And so we will be at the old Bank of America building at 3843 Taylor Road with lawn signs. So if you would like to show your support, you can look for the pop-up tent, and we're really counting on town members. Their participation is crucial to our campaign success, and we're counting on neighbors like you to make a difference, and together we can keep our library thriving. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience who'd like to come up and speak for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Miguel. Go ahead, Miguel.
Oh.
Miguel, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Miguel.
Okay, thank you very much. Miguel Ukowicz, 5911 Great Court, Loomis. It was mentioned that December 7th will be the 40th anniversary of the town of Loomis, and that's very historic.
Thank you, Miguel Ukowicz, 5911 Great Court. It was mentioned that December 17th.
Special event that we looked into having a drone show. I briefly talked to the town manager, and he has some information that somebody that might be able to do it. But I think it would be spectacular to have a drone show downtown on that evening. So I would like to ask, I know you can't act on it, but the town manager bring back next month information about having a drone show downtown. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did he say drone? Is that what, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Which is like a fireworks show, but it's with drones. Yeah. Is there anybody else on Zoom?
No, there's nobody else.
Okay. So
No,
then we
no
can
one on
move
Zoom.
on to opportunity to comment on the consent calendar. Does anybody up here have anything that they want to comment on? Okay. Anybody in the public want to pull any items on the consent calendar?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you so much. I would just like to pull item 5 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody on Zoom want to pull any items? Okay. So I'll bring it back to the council. Does anybody want to discuss before we get back in the public about item 5? Okay, so then, let's, what?
I move to
I'm-
approve.
I was just gonna
Oh, yeah,
items
yeah,
1
thank
through
you.
4 and 6, please.
I thought I
I
had it this
second.
time. I'm sorry, Amanda. I was focusing so much on the item this time. I never do that. Go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Ring.
Yes.
Councilmember Cortez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cartwright.
Aye.
Councilmember Nisely.
Yes.
Mayor Youngblood.
Aye. All right, now, item 5.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this, item 5. It's, as I was reading the staff report, I understand that we are having to do a second recruitment for the financial position, and that the recruiter is going to pay in full for that because they left within a year. But yet there is a $5,000 increase for that, and I just thought it would be interesting for and I would really like to know, the public would like to know what the $5,000 is for.
Thank you for the opportunity. For clarity, so this is under the $55,000. This is 4 recruitments we've done. There's 3 been for the finance director. The first one was unsuccessful because the salary range wasn't sufficient enough to attract talent. So then we did the second, which we were successful, and unfortunately that individual did leave within the first year, as you mentioned, Jan. So in that time as well, we had our town engineer retire, so we had to do recruitment in there on the back end of it. So with the separation on the back end for the finance director within that year, the contract states that they will only charge the cost to do the publications, not for any of the outreach, none of the background checks, any of that stuff. So this is literally just the materials that they need to do that's at a direct cost to them at this point on there. So we've actually negotiated that down. It was like $200 something from the $5,000 that they wanted to kind of keep it within the $55,000 scope as well. So they're actually doing it for under that cost. So it is the contract and the number of recruitments that we've done for this value is probably unbeatable for any other firms to do it. And Bob Murray and Associates has done an amazing job for us. And that's part of the reason why we selected them is that with that guarantee with that first year, if their candidate separates, that they will do it for a very small fraction of the cost or full recruitment.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you for the clarification, because it said in the staff report was a full hosted recruitment, so I was a little unclear about that. And this is the same company that we got Richard from, is that right? Or
That is correct.
good job.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for clarifying.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody want to?
Yeah, I have
Okay, go
something
ahead.
One thing I'd like to mention about this contract with Bob Murray is that a typical executive recruitment is somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 on average, and yet we have consistently come in the low 20s. The first financial director recruitment was $22,748. Of course, the second one being that we had to reprint the announcements. That could have been $5,500, but they came in at $38,17. And the town engineer, again, could have been 30 to 40 on average, but we actually spent $23,650. And then, of course, we have the cost savings of replacing Amy, who had left within 1 year. So all in all, for recruitment efforts and services, we are getting a very good deal, and I think we're getting good value for dollar with this contract.
I just have a couple things to say. One, I want to say thank you. We appreciate your transparency in all of this, Wes, but also your quick response when we lost Amy. That was, you continue to impress me, but I also, to kind of build on what Danny was saying, there's multiple different contracts and multiple different things that the public will soon be aware of your negotiating skills, and that you are continually fighting to keep costs down for this town. So thank you very much.
Anybody else? Okay. Anybody on? No? Okay. So would anybody like to make a motion to approve item 5?
I move.
Second.
Thank you. See, I got that part.
Who did the second? Danny, got it. Councilmember Cortez?
Aye.
Councilmember Cartwright?
Aye.
Councilmember Ring?
Yes.
Councilmember Nisely?
Yes.
Mayor Youngblood?
Aye. All right, so we are on to business. Item 7, the UC Master Gardeners.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, as I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm continue to be impressed with the skill set and the dedication that the Master Gardeners have done to their partnership to the library. And here tonight, they're going to present kind of where they're at in their operations and I think some of the future of what they're planning as well, too. So whether we have Sandy and Karen from the Master Gardeners tonight.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation, Madam Mayor and members of the council. Sandy Fitzpatrick, with me is Karen Lopez. We are both members of the UC Master Gardeners of Placer County. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you this evening a 6-month look at where we are now. So if you remember back to the ribbon cutting that many of you were at, this is 6 months, and here we go. So a beautiful picture of our garden. Pretty soon you'll see those grapevines red as we start to change into seasons. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our garden is a living classroom where we can support education and workshops. Some of those occur at the Loomis Library. And we do that for home gardeners in Placer County so they can make informed decisions about their own backyard. This is a tour group, our first tour group actually, in the garden. Next slide. Thanks, Carol. So just to remind us where we were, groundbreaking to ribbon cutting took us 6 months. So we're pretty impressed with that, actually, that's what it took to transform that parcel of turf behind the library into a living classroom, as we call it. So those are familiar pictures and familiar faces to most of you. Next slide. Just want to call out the Buy a Brick campaign. This was a successful fundraiser for both the Friends of the Loomis Library and the UC Master Gardeners. We used it for construction costs. They used it for their ongoing thing. That's a picture of the fountain and the passing of the last check in that last photo. Next slide. So we planted in November, December, and kept our fingers crossed to see what would happen. I mean, we're master gardeners. We knew what should happen, but, you know, Mother Nature. So this is our spring blooms, the start of them. Just call your attention to that beautiful wildflower. It's an elegant Clarkia, and it just was so bright and beautiful against the backdrop of the library. And later, if you come to some of our events, you'll get some seeds from that wildflower and can plant them in your own yard. Karen will tell you about that in a minute. Next slide. So we really would like to encourage anyone in the community to join us on the second Saturday of every month. We're in the garden. We have master gardeners there to answer your questions. And right in the middle of our 2-hour time zone is always a workshop in the library. So this is a particular workshop on lawn replacement. And we have done this for quite a while with the library anyway, but it amped up with the fact that people can be in the library, hear that workshop, and then move right on out into the garden. So it's a lovely partnership we have with them and have had. So next slide. So I'm going to talk a bit about springtime in the garden, and Karen will move you into summer. So this was some of our first events. You're going to see that patch of pollinator bed. You're going to see it a couple times as it has grown and matured. But we already had the public come in to ask questions. We're doing a little bit of extra watering because those plants are brand new and it was hot. It's been a hot year. And the top is just, I love that photo because it shows that connection between master gardeners and the library and that seamless approach, especially since, thank you, that fence came down. So next slide. So we held our first open house. We do 2 a year, spring and fall. Karen will be sharing you information about the fall. This was spring. Up at the top is a kid's passport. We invited kids into the garden. They did an activity or answered a question at a particular bed. They got a stamp, turned in their passport for a prize at the end of the day. How many people did we have at spring open house?
About 150.
150. And there's a lot of commotion around the pollinator bed, which I'll talk about. And at the bottom is just a master gardener doing a display on how you sharpen tools. So just something different we could offer. And the next slide tells us a little bit about what was so special and why everyone was around the pollinator bed. So we had 2 visitors in June that we call special visitors.
Oh.
The bottom corner is a bee. It's a crotchous bumblebee. There are 1,600 native bees in California. 4 are endangered, and that lovely lady is one who was endangered. It created, pardon the pun, a buzz in the garden with so many bee people and pollinator posse people coming to see if they could see that garden. We had, Sarah probably too, we'll test. We had a lot of people, I saw the bee and I'm thinking, you probably didn't, but great, we're glad you saw it come back again. And then that picture on the right is a lady beetle. and that was a fava bean that had run its course, and the aphid attacked it. And the lady beetle found out that the aphid had attacked it. And they came, you know this here, oh yeah, okay. They came to our fava bean, and they laid their eggs, and they went through their life cycle. So that picture that might not look much to you is the best piece of education we had in the garden at June, because kids, like that little boy, wanted to see every stage of a lady beetle, ladybug's life cycle, and they could find it on that particular leaf. It was, somebody got really stoked about that along the way. Next slide. So Sarah said the other day to us, it's like all this stuff just happened at once. And she meant the wildlife that found the garden. So this is a picture of a bird, some butterflies, a praying mantis, critters, including that little tree squirrel that would not let me take his picture in appropriate category or quality to show it here, have found that garden and are alive and buzzing. So it's really a neat thing to have there. Karen is the coordinator of the garden, and she's going to take us through the rest of the presentation.
Okay, next slide. So Sarah had asked us to be present for the kickoff to the library summer reading program, so we were out there that day primarily for crowd control, but also just to interact with the public. One of our master gardeners there that you see on the right, he owns a lavender farm somewhere here in Loomis, I'm not exactly sure where, but he brought a bunch of lavender and handed it out for the day. On the left there is a California native De La Mina verbena. I highly recommend it. That thing has been blooming in the garden probably since February, so and very little water, so great plant. So that was a lot of fun. I think we had 200 people out that day probably. Yeah.
Snow cone, then to the garden.
Next slide. This more summer blooms, so these are mostly California natives, not all, but mostly California natives. About 85% of the garden is planted in California natives. So by design, they're very low water and they've stood up to even this weather very well. So next slide. We also have vegetables and fruit out there. So we have vegetables. We planted summer crops. You see there in that basket. And then in the upper corner, that's a pear right above the vegetables. And then on the right there is a picture of a couple of our master gardeners with a box of apples. And those apples, that's Sarah's favorite plant. That apple tree, I just found out today, is actually a volunteer. So what that means is that some bird probably dropped a seed, however many years ago, in the courtyard, right where that tree stands, and that tree has grown from that seed. It's appropriate that it's a volunteer because we also are all volunteers. So we, though, are really fascinated, because that's what we do, by those apples. So we have actually we took some of those apples and we sent them to a specialist in Oregon who is going to try and identify them, because we don't have any idea what they are. We all know there's a rich history, right, of apples in this area, so it could be anything. So we'll find out. When we find that out, we will certainly let you know. So. Next slide. And maintenance, of course, it's just like your house, right, except for bigger, probably. Well, maybe not. We have about a third of an acre. We have about 18 water stations, so we're constantly fixing some pipe that broke or something that happened, and pruning and harvesting and things like that. But we really enjoy that, so it's all part of the fun. Next slide. What's new? So we applied for and were granted a grant from the local Redbud chapter of the California Native Plant Society. And we wrote the grant around developing a program to bring children into the garden and teach them about California native plants and sustainable planting and biodiversity, and using the garden again as a classroom. So we're in the process of working on that now, and we have our first session coming through with the 4-H group that meets right across the way, the Miners Ravine 4-H group. They're going to be coming in, their gardening program will be coming in, we'll be presenting that program. And then we also, Sandy mentioned earlier that we started private tours, so we've been training and ongoing. There's another picture of the Ruth Burgess Fund, Women's Fund. They were some of our, well, actually they were our first private tour. Yeah, they were the VIP tour. And next slide. And then a couple things that we're kind of excited about. The library, as you may know, has a small food pantry in it that is sustained by people bringing in non-perishables. And we wanted to distribute our fruits and vegetables also to the community, so we thought what better way to do that than to build those baskets that you see, add them to that little pantry, and get the fruits that we harvest and the vegetables that we harvest right to the community that way. And it's been a tremendous hit. We don't have a ton, we don't have a lot of beds, but the beds that we do have, we're harvesting and taking them in there. The stuff has gone right away. Gotten some really good feedback, and we're really excited to be part of the community in that way. It's nice to be able to give it back that way. On the right is a weather station that we added this year, and yes, there is an app for that. So actually, Sarah has the information that she's going to forward, I think, to you about how to access that app if you're interested. One of those days when you're at home with nothing to do and you're wondering what the weather is like in the demo garden, you can actually sit there and pull up and find out. So, next slide. Okay, so these are the results. So this is our 6 month, these are the hard numbers. So our 6 month results, March through August, we had a little over 2,000 contacts. And contacts might not mean anything to you, but contacts is how we measure our success. So that is the number of people that came into the garden that we interacted with. And we find that out a couple of different ways. One is we use some of the people counter that the library has at the door. Not 100%, we use a small percentage of that. And then through our special events. So just over 2,000 people in 6 months, I think that's pretty good. We averaged March through August, our Master Gardener volunteers put in over 1,700 hours of volunteer time in the garden. That's a lot of time. And then the number of Master Gardeners that put in that 1,700 hours, we had 84 different Master Gardeners come in and put in time. So to give you a little context around that, that's about 70% of our total Master Gardener membership. So that's a very high percent. That means a lot of our Master Gardeners are coming out and spending some time in the garden. We're really happy about that. We had 7 special events, 6 presentations, 4 education sessions. We have trained 51 docents. So again, that's about a third of our total membership that has gone through docent training. And we've conducted 6 tours thus far. We're proud of the garden. It's an accessible place of learning for all ages and all abilities. We're very proud of that. Next slide.
Oh, me. Yeah. Karen said, you do these. So if we take us back to groundbreaking, it was September of 2003. You still see our kind of supplies over there in the corner. This is what the library turf area looked like on that day. The next slide shows us what it looked like 3 days later. We started the day after groundbreaking with construction. Well, tearing up, not construction, I guess. And that's what it looked like. And the next slide shows you what it looked like in August of this year.
Okay, next slide. All right, so just to finish up here with some upcoming events, the library is closed on October 5th, but we are open on October 5th. We wanted to be in the garden to support the Fruit Shed Fest and to be there so that if the community wants to come on over and see what we're doing, they can. We are also supporting the Fruit Shed Fest with a table at the festival in the Farmers Market area. So we'll be in 2 places that day. On that day, we are again highlighting California natives. We got a couple of small workshops that we're going to do. We're going to do a California native container planting demonstration because we believe that California natives belong in everybody's landscape, whether that's a apartment balcony or a 5-acre land plot. And a couple of other things. We'll do Mirror Day Mobile Nursery is going to be on site that day. So if you don't know who they are, you can visit their website. They call themselves the Taco Truck of California Natives. So it literally is a taco truck. They roll the sides up. They have California natives that they've propagated and they sell to the public, which are hard to find actual California natives. I mean, we have some great nurseries in the area, but not everybody sells California natives. So they'll be there that day. We're going to be open from 10 to 2 that day, and we have kids' activities again. November 9th, we're doing a Celebrating Citrus on our second Saturday, 10 a.m. to be determined. We're probably going to go till about 1. It'll depend on interest. If we have people who have questions, and we're going to have some very knowledgeable people there. We're going to have a UC research associate who'll be there talking about citrus pests and things like that. We'll have some tastings, so we're kind of going to do a citrus themed thing. And then lastly, in December, we have several book clubs in the Master Gardener group, and they've all decided this year in lieu of buying a book and reading a book in December, they're going to buy a book and donate it to the library.
Children's book.
So a children's book. Because we are, honestly, we are so honored and so proud to be part of this community and so excited to be part of the community. We want to find every way we can to give back, so that's just a little something we're going to do in December. I think Sandy has something for you.
That concludes our presentation. The last time we were here, we brought you the 2024 Garden Guide. This is the brand new, still smells like a brand new, just took the plastic off. 2025 Garden Guide and Calendar, like last year, for every month. It talks about things you should be doing in your garden at that point. So we'll leave these for Town Council and Town Manager.
Thank you very much.
Any questions we could answer?
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Jen.
No, I just want to thank all the Master Gardeners for those volunteer hours, and it was just really incredible watching that evolve into such a neat another learning experience at our library. So I really thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure.
Go ahead.
I just
No, wait,
wanna say-
We're not done yet.
Someone
Come back.
has a question.
Yeah, I just want to say echo this, but we're really fortunate to have you guys partner with the library. I think that was a great team up. We're really lucky to have that. I just question for you guys. Since you've been visiting Loomis, you've been driving around. Have you seen any places that the town could incorporate more plantings, like in any areas that we haven't done so before? We also have a new Discover Loomis sign at the corner, which is kind of bare. Is there something we could plant that doesn't take any water that would be?
Well, that would be an
I knew that's
artificial.
where you were going with that question. I knew it.
Go to the dollar store class.
Yeah. Oh, and there's also, and the other thing is there's at the corner where the stop signs are at Webb and Taylor, there's a bunch of big potters that Ace owns.
Oh, that's true.
And they had sunflowers, but they got in the way of stop signs. And so if we could, is there something we could plant there that's lower? Any ideas?
I've
Any
never
ideas?
met a piece of land or a pot that I can't find a plant to put in. So the short answer is absolutely. If you want us to take a look at something, we can absolutely do that and make recommendations or whatever. I will tell you, there's no such thing as no maintenance, right? There's low maintenance, but there's not no. But yeah, for sure. And, we do drive through town quite a bit on our way to and from the garden, and we've noticed a couple spots, maybe the fire station, that could potentially, be. It has great bones. That's great structure. But absolutely, we're more than happy. So we have a California Native Plant Committee who they know more than they'll forget more than I'll ever know. So if you're really interested, just let us know, and we're happy to take a look at what you want us to look at, and we're happy to make recommendations. So for sure.
All right, can we get somebody just to have a conversation with them about that?
We have direction. We'll work
Okay,
on it.
got it. And then I can reach out to the owner base and see if maybe he can reach out to you guys and find something.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Now we can move on to item 8, the Loomis Library and Community Learning.
It's Library Day night,
Yes.
I guess. So every year, it's a legal requirement actually that we give an update on the past fiscal year to council so that you are all aware of the state of the library, as it were. So tonight, I'm giving my annual report for fiscal year 2023-2024. All right, so to start off with, I like to start off with staff because without these people up here, nothing would happen. There's me, of course, but then there's Kristen, she's our part-time employee. Chris and Brittany are both full-time. And we're so excited that soon, on September 24th, we will be adding Olivia, and that's my drawing of what she looks like because she is a member of the curly hair community, so I'm excited.
Oh, wonderful.
And so, yes, so the 4, soon to be 5 of us are the people that you're going to see at the library every day. But we also have well over 600 plus volunteer hours. That number is always really underreported because it requires volunteers to sign in and sign out meticulously, and they aren't all that great about it. So just add on to that, but that 600 is sort of a minimum amount of volunteer hours that we're getting. So I also like to start talking about the collection, because when people think of libraries, of course, they think books, which is a very important part of the library, but it isn't all of what we do. So at the end of this fiscal year, we had over 16,000 items in our collection. We added 2,623 items, And we circulated 42,925, almost 43,000 items over the course of the fiscal year. People checked out. And then, of course, we are not just books. You can also check out from the library Chromebooks, hotspots, parks passes, games and puzzles, seeds, DVDs. We have a digital library that includes ebooks, audiobooks, movies, TV, and music that can be accessed 24/7 from home just with your library card. And then if you're missing something, if you come into the library and you say, the book that I'm looking for is not here, we have a program called Zip Books that is funded by a grant. The Friends of the Library actually took it over for this year, but the past fiscal year, the fiscal year that we're talking about here, it was funded by the state of California. And that allows us to order books from Amazon and have them shipped directly to your door. Usually arrives within 3 to 5 business days.
Wow.
And you get it for 6 weeks, and then you return it to the library, and it becomes a library book. So it's a great program, and we're very grateful to the Friends of the Library for continuing on that program this fiscal year. And then, not quite. I wanted to point out these 4 books are some of our most popular titles this year. So we've got The Sour Grape, which is an excellent picture book. Dog Man and Cat Kid, and I love the Dog Man series, it's hilarious. And then for adults, we've got the David Baldacci book, Simply Lies, and for nonfiction, Ultimate Veg by Jamie Oliver. Another cookbook was the top this year, vegetarian cookbook, same as last year. Go ahead. All right, so here's just a glimpse at our circulation numbers since 2019. You can see we did take a little dip during COVID while we were closed, and then we had that dramatic increase again in 21-22. But I'm not sure if you can tell, but we did still increase our numbers this past fiscal year in terms of circulation, although not as dramatic as years past. And then here's Sally saying, happiness is having your own library card. And the people of Loomis agree. As of June 30th, we had 3,021 active library card holders.
Wow.
And we added 903 members over the course of the year. So people are getting library cards. And here's a graph of our library cards that have been added since 2019. And you can see we sort of had that same dip during COVID, but then a bounce back and another increase this year. And we keep seeming to find people who don't yet have library cards. So, yeah. And then our partnerships. I think this is one of the things that makes us really unique in terms of libraries is the way that we interact with our community. And we're really lucky to be able to do so. I think that's one of the great things about having a town-controlled library is that we don't have to ask permission before partnering with a community organization. We have a lot more control over what we do and do not do in the library. And so here's some of our partners, of course, Friends of the Library, the Historical Society. I'm sure you've all seen the Throwback Thursday posts on Facebook that are really, really popular. Our Master Gardeners, who you just heard from. We've got the Senior Life Center, where we do a pop-up library once a month. The Placer County Sheriff's Office, Placer Fire, Lend a Heart, Lend a Hand, does our Read to a Dog program, Placer County Genealogical Society, Loomis Community Preschool, Placer County Mosquito and Vector Control, AARP Tax Aid, Still Standing Guard, Wild Heart Ranch, Placer Ume Taiko, Loomis Basin Quilters Guild, I didn't get their full name on there, and the Del Oro FFA. And all of these groups really help us expand what we're able to provide to the community because, like I said in the first slide, we're only 4 people and we only have so much capacity and so much knowledge. And this allows us to really expand the walls of the library and expand the services of the library. So some information about our programs. We had 5,878 people attend 257 programs over the course of the year. We did 1,750 take and make craft kits. This was something that was born out of COVID. We were looking for things that people could take home with them and do at home. And once we sort of got past that, we realized that people loved it so much that we had to continue it. And so every Friday in a brown paper bag, we supply all of the supplies and information needed to do a craft that you can take home and do at home. They're very popular. And some other passive programs that we do at the library, passive meaning we aren't active, there isn't like a set time and a set leader of the program, it's just drop in and do it as you are interested. Tea of the month, we almost always have a scavenger hunt going on at the library. We have a little case up in the front desk where we do I Spy, and kids can find different activities or different items in the case. We've got a maker space where kids can do crafts in the library. We've got a puzzle table, we've got a train table, and we've got a Lego table. And then just some information about the pictures up at the top. This is from our Barbie tea party that we had. It was so much fun. It was Barbie's birthday, and so we decided to celebrate.
July 21st.
The bottom left is from Spice Club, which is always a great hit. And then the bottom right, that is Wild Heart Ranch came, and she did a story time with her miniature horse, Cheerio. And we had 350 people show up that day, so it was a little overwhelming, but we had a blast. So, next slide. And then, of course, we do a summer reading program every summer. This year, we decided to forget the national theme. We weren't a big fan, and we did our own, which was an Olympic theme, Quest for the Reading Torch Summer Games Edition. And ironically, we did a sports theme event every single week, but I got 0 pictures from any of them. So the pictures that I have are from our sensory gym that was sponsored by the Loomis Community Preschool, up there in the top left, and then Ume Taiko on the right. And they did a Matsuri festival for us, or they attended our Matsuri festival, which is just a Japanese style festival that we did carnival games and that sort of thing. It was a lot of fun. But we had 451 total participants. 841 people attend 15 events over the course of 5 weeks. And we had 529,997 minutes recorded of reading. And that's a little bit different than the numbers that I reported to you last month, because I went back and checked and realized that I had left out an entire group of, we break them up by age range, and I had left out an entire group of kids in my reporting for you last month. So this is the accurate, I was thinking, it was 150 participants. I was like, that seems low, but yeah, so those are our accurate numbers. And then finally, I always like to leave you with this quote. This was written on a card that was given to me on my very first day, and it has sort of been a guiding statement in my life. Bad libraries build collections, good libraries build services, great libraries build communities. And I really strive to be a great library, build community. And so what's next for us? We want to continue our partnerships. We really love building that community here. And we are working on updating our strategic plan, and so that will guide us through the next 5 years. And then we want to stay innovative. We want to, continue doing great things like the partnership with the Master Gardeners to get the garden, and just those sorts of things. I can answer any questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Sarah, I got a question about your digital library. If a person had a library card and they wanted to check out digitally, right, an audiobook, would another person be able to check it out simultaneously? Or I'm not sure how your computer is set up.
So we actually have 2 different ways to do that, 2 different apps that you can download. One is called Hoopla, and one is called Libby. With Hoopla, you get the access to the entire catalog, and everything in the catalog is available 100% of the time. So yes, 2 people could be listening to the same audiobook, reading the same book at the same time. With Libby, it's a bit more like a traditional library where there are wait lists, and that catalog is just a little different. So yes and no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead, Mina.
I just wanted to make a comment. Your last little, mantra here. I was thinking when the Master Gardeners were up here that it's those kinds of partnerships that, and I've told you before how impressed I am with all of the different programs you run there, that it is such a draw to this area. But I just love how it just really does build community, and that is one of the things that I have expressed multiple times. Our schools, our library, and all of the different ways that you guys try to bring people together. I just really, really want to tell you that I love that part, and I am so grateful for all of your innovation. I think that it is imperative that we strive to continue to be fresh and exciting and new and not stagnant and not the same old all the time. And I love it that you do that. So I just want to say great job and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to comment before it goes public?
Ditto.
Okay. All right, cool. So any public like to comment on this? Because it does say public comment, and I always forget to ask that, so I apologize. Anybody in the audience want to comment on item 8? It does say it on there, public comment. Technically, I'm supposed to be offering it. I know. So I want to apologize. I didn't do that for item 7, so I'm offering it for item 8. No? Okay, anybody on Zoom? Okay, so let's move on to item 9. Thank you very much, Sarah, by the way. Item 9 is the Moss Adams LLC Organizational Assessment Services Contract.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to do a little bit of a presentation on this, and at the end of it, Annie with Moss Adams is going to do a little bit of a slideshow. She's with us virtually tonight, and she'll go through kind of who they are and what services they provide on there. So this is, we're looking for council to adopt a resolution authorizing an expenditure of the $75,000 for this organizational assessment. This is a budgeted item. For some context and background for the council and audience, this is one of the 8 key council initiatives that were identified during the strategic planning goals to provide an efficient and effective organization under Initiative 3. So this started back in 2021. This is when the council seated at that point. And under that Initiative 3, Objective 2 was identify and review the town's organizational structure, evaluate relative to capacity, efficiency, and effectiveness. So with that, council directed staff to budget to do this review and assessment of the organization to look at where strengths where we can improve in areas, to identify whether or not we have adequate staffing for our needs, and if there's any areas where maybe staff are a little deficient and could use some additional training. So with that, we'll be able to do this with this review with Moss Adams. We did put this out for bid on July 22nd, and it closed August 19th. We received 3 proposals, one from Moss Adams, one from Gallagher, and one from CPS HR Consulting. The review panel unanimously selected Moss Adams as the firm to move forward. They had a little more experience with small communities and stuff, and they had more of a local approach to it, and I thought it would be a little more appropriate for Loomis in there than some of these others on there. So with that, unless you have questions, we'll turn it over to Annie to kind of give a little presentation on their services they provide.
Does anybody up here have any questions before we turn it over? Okay, nobody in the audience before we turn it over? Okay, let's go ahead and turn it over to Annie.
Okay, Annie, you can go ahead and talk, and then I'm going to go ahead and put your presentation up as well, all right?
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right, well, I apologize that I'm not able to join you all in person this evening, but we are really looking forward to working together on this project. And I can't see the slide.
I'm not able to jump in this evening, but we are really working together.
We have it up on the line now.
Fantastic, yes. Great, all right. Well then, if you go to the next slide here, mostly what I wanted to share with you all this evening is an introduction to myself and the rest of the project team that would be working on this work, and then talk a little bit about our next steps in the process. So I'm Amy Rose Favreau. I'm the director on the Moss Adams team. I specialize in organizational development work specifically for cities and counties, so other organizations just like yours. And I will be your project manager for this work, primary point of contact as we go through. I'd be joined though by 4 other women who are on this slide. So Colleen Rosilis, she leads our public sector practice for the full firm, and so she will be doing QA and overseeing the engagement, making sure everything looks good. She has incredibly extensive experience specifically working in Northern California California, so that's why we wanted to ensure that she was brought into this work. Jessie Lenhart is another senior manager on our team. She will be helping lead a lot of the structure aspect of this, and then we'll be supported by Amy Faisley and Claire Casanati, who would both be our analysts on this work to move you forward. So one of the things that you'll note about our team, if you read any of our bios, is that all of us are focused on serving public sector clients, serving counties and cities and tribal governments, because this is the area that we find to be most interesting, most exciting. We're a big bunch of nerds about local government work, and so we are excited to bring that to you. If you can go to the next slide, talk a little bit about our government practice here. And I apologize, I think when I am speaking, I cannot see the slide, so please tell me if I'm ever speaking to something that you are not seeing, but we should be on the Our Government Practice slide here. So this one, I just wanted to highlight, for those of you who are not familiar with Moss Adams, you might have heard of us as an accounting firm. We are in fact a consulting and accounting firm, and we have a really large government practice of people who focus specifically on local government. So everyone on our team, but we also have over 350 other professionals across the firm who work in this area. And so that means that if there's ever a really specific question that comes up, that we want somebody who has expertise in that area, we will pull them onto the bench, pull them into this work with us. If you go to the next slide, looking at our Northern California presence, I'm actually based in Seattle, but I do almost all of my work in California, and we have many clients specifically within Northern California. Some of your neighbors we have worked with in the past or are currently working with today. So we are familiar with your part of the world. We have offices in your area. We have a lot of connections here. We do a lot of work in your neighborhood. So wanting to highlight that as well. All right, so on the next slide, we have the project overview. As was mentioned previously, the goal of this project is really to think about how can we create an optimized organizational structure and staffing model that is going to meet your needs today and meet your needs moving forward into the future. So we're going to be looking at we have these 4 questions up here that are kind of going to guide the rest of this work. We should have answers to all of these questions when we reach the end of this. So the first piece is thinking about your organizational structure. In comparison to how your peers are structured, in comparison to industry standards for towns of your size, what is an organizational structure that's really going to suit your needs? We're also going to be looking at job descriptions, specifically roles and responsibilities. Do we have the right people in the right places? Do we have clarity around those roles and responsibilities? And as well, in terms of that staff knowledge and training side, are there any pieces where we want to further support your staff to make sure that they can be as effective as possible within their roles? The third question, are there adequate staffing levels? This is always a really important one, and it's influenced by many different things, including things like how efficient your current processes are. That's going to impact how many people you need to do your work, as well as obviously community needs and service levels. So we're going to be looking at the staffing levels in general, again, in comparison to peers, in comparison to industry standards, but also in comparison to the workload that is actually present within the town. And then finally, are there tools, programs, other changes, other things that the town could be doing to increase the efficiency of operations? So while much of this is focused on the organizational structure and staffing side of things, we know that that operates within a holistic picture of all of your operations. So we want to be looking really holistically to understand if there are good opportunities to increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of your internal operations as well. If you go to the next slide that says Project Work Plan, just really quickly wanted to give you an overview of typically how we do this work. We can tailor this to your needs, and we've already adjusted this based on the RFP, but we can always be flexible as we go through this work as well, because we really want to give you an end product that's going to be as useful as possible to you. But in general, we break this work into 4 sections. The first piece is really around coordination, making sure that we have a really clear project plan on our side, that we have clear ongoing communication throughout the project, setting up those status calls, all of those pieces to make sure that there's not going to be any surprises as we move through this work. Our second phase is around field work. This is our fact-finding phase, where we're going to be reviewing a lot of documents, we're going to be doing interviews with your staff, towns, small cities, to see how they are structured, to see what lessons we may be able to take from them. We're going to analyze at that point the full organizational structure and staffing piece, and we may, depending on needs, also facilitate an organizational modeling session with your management team. So that's looking at, okay, here's a couple different options, here's some of the pros and cons, what are we leaning towards, getting a little bit more input and engagement in that work. And then finally, all of that will roll up into a final report that will be developed as draft, reviewed by staff, and then finally also brought forward to council, where we will put together all of the pieces in terms of here's what we observed, here's what we would recommend, here's the research, here's the peer benchmarking data, all those pieces together in a really digestible package so that your team can basically take that and move forward into implementation. We want to make sure that it's really actionable, so that's where we're going to focus. All right, and then I think my last slide here, our approach. I just want to highlight that we really like to be collaborative in this work. We're going to want to basically talk with all of your staff members, any key stakeholders, so that we can be bringing together insights from across the board to really make sure that at the end, when you get that report, that it's really reflective of your current situation, of your needs, of where you're trying to go as an organization. We want this to be an engaging process. We are really thoughtful. We know everyone has full-time jobs. Everyone is working really hard, and so we want to make sure that the process is not only engaging, but also that we're using everyone's time really effectively. So that's something that we think about as we're putting our project plan together. We need staff involvement in this work, but we also want to be thoughtful about how much time we're asking for. And then finally, I think I mentioned it already, we want this to be a no surprise process. We want this to be really smooth, so we focus quite a bit on proactive communication, making sure that everyone who needs to be is kept in the loop throughout the planning work, so that by the time we get to that final report, we're kind of iterating on some of the messaging and ideas that you already will have seen as well. All right, then my very last slide is just over to questions. So I welcome any questions or thoughts anyone has this evening.
You guys have any questions? Okay. All right, so does the public have any questions? Zoom? Okay.
Looks like we have Miguel.
Okay.
Go ahead, Miguel. Did you want to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Miguel Yukovich, 5911 Great Court, Loomis, California. I have two questions. When you said that you'll look at similar cities, when you look at cities that just provide the services that Loomis does, in other words, Loomis doesn't have a fire department, we don't have a police department, we don't have a water department, we don't have a garbage department. There's many things that Loomis doesn't have. So the cities that you look at their staffing levels, will they be similar to Loomis? My second question is, you talked about some national organizational standards. What is this national organization that you're referring to? Thank you.
Does this staff want to comment on that, or? Oh, Annie, yeah, there you go.
That's all right if I can respond.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so great questions. So the first piece is about how are we going to find peers knowing that Loomis has a certain set of services. So a lot of times what we will do for that is we will look at individual departments within other towns or cities of similar size so that we can be comparing kind of department by department. If we can find another peer city that offers a similar range of services, obviously we might bring that into the mix, but if we can't, we often go down to the department level so that we can make sure we're really comparing apples to apples here, because as you pointed out, we definitely don't want to be bringing in cities that offer a wildly different service range and using those as comparisons. So we do a bit of breaking it down to make sure that it's really going to be relevant here. And then the second question you had was about the industry standards. And so those we often look at specific organizations. So for example, if we are looking at a ratio of how many HR staff should you have, or how many IT staff, or how many finance staff, there are industry standards and ratios that have been set by various organizations like the Society for Human Resources on
Okay, cool. So does anybody want to recommend the act?
I just have a
You have a
comment and a
question
question.
before we do that?
Yeah,
Okay,
So
cool.
2 comments actually. Anyway. So thank you, Ms. Fabro, for your presentation. It went really smoothly. I have a feeling you've done this before. My question is for Wes, actually. I just want to make sure that if I'm right, this is something we've never done before, right? This is something the town has never participated in. We've actually never gone through this kind of process.
To my knowledge, no.
And so it's definitely something we should have done before this, and so I think this is an overdue item that we're handling now. So yeah. So does anybody
else have any comments before we do the recommended action?
Okay, then I will make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I second.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ring?
Yes.
Councilmember Cortez?
Aye.
Councilmember Cartwright?
Aye.
Councilmember Nisley?
Yes.
Mayor Youngblood?
Aye. Cool. So then we're on to item 10, Information Technology Contract Services with Vision Quest.
All right, Madam Mayor, again, I'm going to cover kind of the basics of what this is about, and then at the end, Paul with Vision Quest is going to give you a highlight on some work they've done to kind of get us to this point. Okay. So the town of Loomis we've been in a contract with Vision Quest to provide IT solutions since 1997. I have to say, when I was with Colfax, we actually reference to Loomis and we actually onboarded them a few years ago too. Their service has been impeccable for that area as well. The last contract that Loomis had executed with Vision Quest was in March 1st of 2019. That was a 1-year contract, and it's been month to month since. So the current value that we're paying for services is $3,121. I can tell you that's artificially low. So it's kind of the same scenario now as you're looking at this contract. The amount is by the end of the term of this contract, it'll be artificially low again, right? In a 60-month contract that we're looking at in here. So we had Vision Quest. They did recently put us through a virtual threat assessment on their existing service and cyber protection equipment we have. Not surprising, like most small jurisdictions, we did not do very well. So in that, they actually made some recommendations on some service improvements, which Paul will go over tonight, which is part of the justification is why the increase for the contract is over $3,000 a month on there. So in this contract, one of the things that we identified is that 19 computers that we have are so outdated that you can't even put on the new cyberware software on there. We were able to negotiate that of those 19 computers that need to be replaced, that Vision Quest would front the cost for all of those. It would not be passed on to the town. The other 9 will be replaced by the town, and it is budgeted in this year to get those replaced to move forward with getting the cyber security updated on there. So what we're looking at now is if council approves a contract tonight, that this contract will have a base cost of $6,450 per month on there for a 5-year term with a option to extend it for another 12 months. So you're looking at 6 years at a fixed cost per month, no inflation, at $6,450 in there. And I don't want to steal thunder. I think some of you have comments in putting that in context is in what we're really paying per year in relations to if we actually had staff on board to do that later. But right now, the contract term, if council approved it, would go through 2029 with the option to extend it through 2030. Again, we were in negotiations with this during budget development. This is a budgeted item at the value that is being proposed tonight for council. And with that, I'll turn it over to Paul to take us through some of the assessments and the services, the additional services that come with this the contract extension.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So we did a cybersecurity risk assessment on all devices for the town of Loomis. We found some pretty alarming things, and we'll go over them now. So the town of Loomis has 30 computers, 15 users, 58 Office 365 accounts, 2 hypervisors, so those are just physical servers, 4 virtual machines. You guys have an office of both in office as well as remote, Windows OS as well as Mac OS. You utilize Cisco firewalls. The type of firewalls you guys are currently using are the EOL, just stands for end of life. Your backup solution currently is Altero. That's a disaster recovery business continuity solution. Okay, moving forward. So the silent killer. Town of Loomis has major security gaps. Criminal gangs will exploit these gaps. Town of Loomis has no security management practices to prevent or minimize massive financial losses. Your organization has no incident response or business continuity plan. So that's a plan, that's not the solution. So cyber liability coverages require an incident response plan that you have to basically provide to them. If you don't have that, you could get your claim denied if there was a cyber incident. And then should you fail to take action, a cyber threat attack is inevitable. Okay, you can just hit the space bar, perfect. So what is a breach, what is a compromise? That's kind of a play on words. A compromise is essentially they gain access to your systems. A breach is where data is exfiltrated. Obviously a compromise is bad, data exfiltration is much worse. In California, especially because this is government, you guys, you would have to obviously report, as well as any personally identifiable information would need to be provided. All the people involved that have personal identifiable information that was part of this data breach or data exfiltration, that would be, you would then have to give notice. Similarly to like all the big businesses that you hear on the news. For instance, I got a notification from Mr. Cooper. You know, I have a mortgage through them. They were recently hacked, and so obviously compromise is bad, but a breach is much worse. Okay. I already said what a compromise is. An email compromise essentially means your email is compromised. They gained access into your email, and of course, once they have access into your email, they can then exfiltrate the data. And then what is the criminal mindset? Separate you from your money, right? So they just want to get your money. And so this is more of a question I would normally ask during a meeting, but the answer should be yes, very, very concerned. Cyber crimes since the beginning of COVID have gone up tenfold. I don't know if you guys just watch the news. It's pretty much every day a new big business is getting hacked, data is being exfiltrated, and it's a big deal. And then what do you think the biggest cybersecurity threat to your organization? Any organization, it's your people. They're the ones that will receive the phishing email, click the link, allow access into their systems. And then if you lost all the money in all your organizational bank accounts, what would that do to your organization? I know that seems like a rather crazy question. However, we've seen it to where businesses actually, so the average time a hacker stays in an organization is 120 days before they launch their attack. And the reason they do that is they're trying to gain access to everything, right? So when I say all bank accounts, if for instance you have financial passwords stored on different computers, they could potentially have access to all bank accounts. But generally, they'll gain access to one or something along those lines, and then transfer money to their account. If a criminal got into your network, stole all your data, and sold it on the dark web, how much would that impact your organization? So it's a bit different because I normally work with small businesses, but generally, I think the statistic now is if you don't have some of these cyber protections in place, as well as cyber liability coverage, generally the business just goes under because they can't recover. And if you had to pay, how much would you be willing to pay to get your data back? Okay. So these are some statistics. I can't really read that, but small and medium-sized organizations hit more frequently ransomware than large. So basically all that's saying is Small businesses don't have the security protections that big businesses do. I mean, that's just the reality. Big businesses, so to put in perspective, I came from an enterprise environment. They have, in big businesses, you have your network engineers, you have your systems administrators, you have your help desk staff, and then you have your cybersecurity. We're currently doing everything except for cybersecurity right now. So, so generally, small businesses are the low-hanging fruit. They're the ones that they attack. Okay, 1 in 10 organizations were hit by attempted ransomware attacks in 2023, up 33% from 2022. So, I mean, that's a pretty big amount of organizations. In 2023, attacks using valid credentials increased 71%. Average cost of a data breach reached an all-time high of $4.4 million, and that's average across all businesses. Total average cost to resolve insider threat over a 12-month period is $17 million. 56% of incidents experienced by organizations are due to negligence, and average annual cost to remediate the incidents is $6-something million. Small business face no shortage of threats, and the sophistication of those threats is often on par with those attacks on larger enterprise and governments. Something to note, you know, oftentimes these threat actors, they're spreading a big net. They're just throwing it out there. Their hope is to catch someone, right? And you know, people think I'm a small business, I'm a small town, I'm a small city. They're not going to go after me. Well, the reality is, just because you're small, you still have potentially millions of dollars to provide to these threat actors, right? So they don't care, you know, how big or small it is. In fact, they would prefer a small business because of the security. Okay. It's no longer if but when, and you know, to varying degrees, that's really the reality. Option 1, catastrophic losses, financial informational and reputational, half measure and unknown leading to days or weeks of downtime. And then, of course, the best option is have Town of Loomis ready to recover in a controlled and predictable manner within minutes/hours. And so these are just some local to you towns, or I'm sorry, cities. City of Galt got hacked, I think in 2022, Modesto in 2023, a city of Grass Valley in 2021. I think Lincoln got hacked twice. And once you're hacked once, you're exponentially more likely to get hacked again because you're, again, kind of considered low-hanging fruit. So a lot of people believe that I'm in the cloud, I'm safe. Well, the reality is 82% of attacks happen in the cloud, public, private, or multiple environments. Really, in today's day and age, pretty much everyone is in some degree in the cloud. And all the cloud means your data lives on a server someplace that's not in your office. Okay? So, criminal business model has been commoditized. So during COVID, a lot of people got laid off. One of the big things that some of those people have done, rather than trying to get employed again, these hacker organizations provided a service called Ransomware as a Service. They provide all the tools necessary to, I call it a marketing campaign, but essentially launch a ransomware attack on small businesses. They can localize it. They could spread out along a wide net. It really doesn't matter. And then they have, similar to you guys have IT, they have a support through these threat actors to launch their attacks. And then criminal gangs sell lists of companies that pay ransom. That goes with that, exponentially more likely to get hacked again. Cyber criminals require little technical skills. Are you guys familiar with what the dark web is? Yeah, so essentially all the dark web is like the black market for the internet, you know, where all the bad stuff goes. It's where threat actors will post all of your personal identifiable information to if you were to not pay the ransom or something along those lines. And the reality is they could do it even after you pay, right? They're malicious. Social engineering, hacking, credential scraping, contaminated emails, drive-by downloads, fileless memory, only malware. Okay? Those are just some types of attacks. Criminals are extorting business owners. Criminal gangs threaten business owners. They sell private information to competitors. They social engineer people to extract info. They leverage relationships to move between businesses. One thing that, in fact, a company here in Loomis, construction company here in Loomis, they weren't involved in the hack. It was the company they were doing business for, or doing business with. They were hacked, but they had access to their emails, the communications, and they launched a man-in-the-middle attack against the other, to have them wire money. Fortunately, the business owner was very savvy. He emailed us, and we were able to just let him know, because he thought he was hacked, but the reality was it was the company he was doing business with. And we see that quite a bit. I just mentioned the company here in Loomis because it's so close to home, right? They use I can't even pronounce that. Threats and time pressure are used as well. Your most important relationships are at risk. So essentially, they don't care. They're gonna try and use your competitors. They're going to try and any which way to gain access to your money. Okay? The security challenge: 61% of attacks used hacked employee credentials. 94% of attacks are delivered via email. And like I mentioned, 120 days to discover a data breach on average. All that means is they're in your system for 120 days. You don't know they're there. And then they launch the ransomware attack. So they're in their system, exfiltrating as much information, gaining access to everything they need to. And then at the end of it, to kind of solidify everything, they launch a ransomware attack, encrypt all of your information, and say, pay me money or you don't get your data back. Okay. All right, and then often small businesses believe they have cyber liability coverage, right? Well, cyber coverage, they're a for-profit organization, generally. So, you know, they're having to pay out a lot, so they put in some very, very strict requirements. And that's really what we kind of base our cybersecurity coverage, kind of a minimum level of service based off of the different insurance companies we work with to provide a service that meets their cyber liability recommendations or requirements. Okay. Okay. So, so with your insurance, you guys have like a group coverage with different cities. The annual aggregate limit for all insured members combined, I think, is 45 million. Annual aggregate limit for each insured regulatory events and penalties is 2 million. Cyber extortion, lost data recovery, 750,000. You guys can kind of go over the different coverage you guys have. But you guys have a pretty good coverage. Something to note down at the bottom. Claims or losses that were known or noticed. So for instance, if after we do this review, you guys were to get hacked, because you guys know you have your vulnerabilities, your cyber liability coverage has it built in to where, unfortunately, they will deny your claim. So, and we, as an IT provider, have to do these risk reviews because we have to meet our cyber liability and errors and omissions coverage as well. So it's kind of a lose-lose, if that makes sense. Claims arising from governmental actions, such as fines or penalties imposed by regulatory authorities, costs to identify or fix software vulnerabilities in the computer system, failure to, so essentially that just means after the hack, all that money that it takes to kind of bring you back to whole, they're generally not going to cover. Okay. So what we did, we acted as if we were a threat actor trying to gain access to your organization. We started with your people. We launched a phishing campaign, you know, a very basic simulation. It's not a real one. To see if we would gain access. Then we looked at the vulnerabilities on your devices to see how would they spread through your network, as well as we looked at passwords and things like that stored in browsers, on sticky notes, on desks, things of that nature, to see what we would gain access to. And then, of course, we looked at the dark web to see what lives on the dark web currently. Is there passwords that are existing and things of that nature? And then we looked at your sensitive data. What type of personally identifiable information is available for a threat actor to gain access to? Okay, next one. So the first part is yes, someone Town of Loomis official as well as library staff member did click the links. So opening the email used to be the problem. Now that it's not really a thing anymore, but in this case, staff members actually clicked on the link, which is allowing access into your organization potentially. Okay. Will your team put your company at risk? You know, assuming that one of those click gain access to a system, at that point we would scan that system to see what type of passwords are available, and then you can go to the next slide. We found, as well as we looked in the dark web to look at data breach. So these are town officials, you know, Roger's old email is exposed in 10 data breaches. Carol, yours in 8. Town hall email is 2. Oh, that's Cricket. I apologize. There
Carol's on there.
You're on there. You're in 3. I apologize. Direct, and then of course Cricket, and you know, so director at Loomis Library, 2 data breaches, and Dave Strzok, 1 data breach. All that means is they didn't necessarily get hacked. It just means the account they used or something they signed up for got hacked, and they used their town provided email. Okay. So yes. We also looked to see if there was personal emails used on Town of Loomis equipment, and then we looked at those personal emails for data breaches as well. It looks like there are 47 exposed personal email breaches that were found on Town of Loomis equipment. Okay, so something to note, if you see the red, that's what's on the dark web, and those are passwords that are very similar or the same that you guys are still actively using. So I'm hoping since then those passwords have been changed. We did this quite a while ago. But there are some matching passwords there, as well as we are able to easily extract a ton of passwords. This is just a small list of them. Of course, we redacted all of the true passwords, but yeah. Like Wes mentioned, there's 19 workstations that are end of life. And like he also mentioned, we're willing to replace 10, and then the town will replace 9. Okay. And then we looked at vulnerabilities. A C is actually, believe it or not, a C is actually really good. For the average small business, it's usually an E, or an F, I should say. They have weird grading systems. But essentially, all that means is, the reason you guys got a C is because you guys probably aren't utilizing BitLocker encryption, as well as a lot of line of business applications are not scanned for vulnerabilities. And part of our new cyber coverage is we have tools on each device that does that. So it looks at every available vulnerability that's posted, and then it scans your devices to see if those exist. Okay. And then the loomislibrary.org, that's just something that those vulnerabilities just need to be closed. I believe they're either in the process of rebuilding their website or something along those lines. I can't remember, but we would just work with whoever their webmaster is and just close those vulnerabilities. Microsoft Secure Score. So Microsoft has best practice recommendations, and as it relates to security, right now Town of Loomis is at 40.44. After all of the onboarding is done and all this implementation is in place, we'll get you around 90%, maybe high 80%. Unfortunately, in order to get 100%, you have to utilize all Microsoft tools. They're very expensive. We try to find the most cost-effective ways to meet those same requirements. But yeah, so we'll probably get you to around 90%. So we looked at your sensitive data. Obviously, we're not specifically looking into, we utilize tools to find that information for us. Similarly to a threat actor, they would use something very similar to what we use. Your server has about $2.4 million in risk. Roger's old desktop has about just under $1 million. And then conference room TV has 26,000. I don't know what that, about 9,700 and then 2,600. All that's saying is you guys have a bunch of sensitive information on your devices, especially on your server. That makes sense. That's where you're storing all your information, right? Okay, I have risky data. Tell me more. Okay. So in California, if you're as part of a compromise or an incident, you'll reach out to your cyber liability coverage. California requires you to give notice or give a copy of the notice you give to all of the people involved in a data exfiltration or data breach. But what will happen is you have to hire a breach coach. That's just a lawyer that specializes in incidents like that. And then you would hire data forensics. We call it incident response. It's extremely expensive. It's anywhere from $500 an hour upwards to over $1,000 an hour. Crisis management, notification. So in a data breach, California, you have to give notice to everyone involved in a data breach. I think I went over that already. Call center, and then credit monitoring. Your typical thing that these companies that have been involved would offer. Okay. How compromised are you today? Unfortunately, the team, dark web, and sensitive data. Networking devices did okay. You guys do have some old devices in there that need to be replaced, but not terrible. In fact, better than what we normally see. And then this is your total financial impact after cyber coverage is considered. So in this case, it'd be $500,000. Total hard cost is $1.3 million, and then after subtracting the cyber liability coverage, providing that you get paid out, you're still at about $835,000 that would come from the town of Loomis. Okay, the average cost of compromise and business disruptions over a 12-month period. That statistic is just telling you it's going up and up and up. It's just getting more and more expensive. Okay, so this is just a legend showing you what we do currently, and then the bottom there, the plus greens, are just what we propose to add. Okay. So end user management, role-based access policies and procedure, high security password management, multi-factor authentication. So we were able to pull all of your guys' passwords out of browsers and things like that. So if you were utilizing an encrypted password management solution with multi-factor authentication, you wouldn't easily be able to do that. Email filtering, encryption and archiving, data access management and tracking, supported device data encryption for laptops, desktops, end user security awareness training. Currently, actually, you guys do already have security awareness training. Okay. Advanced cyber protections, 24/7 security information event monitoring. Basically, it monitors every event that happens on devices and on your network. 24/7 security expert team on standby. Advanced cyber threat hunting, AI-enabled end-user endpoint protection, machine learning algorithms examining end-user behavior, flagging irregular activity. And then a big one is dark web monitoring and scanning. Essentially, when there's a hit on the dark web, we'll get it notified, we'll alert you. Actually, our password management solution would already notify you saying, hey, you're part of the breach watch, get that password changed, essentially. Okay. Monthly technology cyber sweeps, annual executive cybersecurity risk reviews. Essentially what I'm doing here, but a much more simplified version of this. ongoing administration and management of all cyber tools and services, breach incident response plan. That's the plan that we provide a template to the town. We walk you through it. However, it's still your job to make sure to fill in all those blanks, right? Bring your own device policies. Again, we provide the template at help. Data loss policies, it goes down the list, okay? Advanced firewall with threat management. One of the nice things we, with the introduction to work from home during COVID, a lot of people moved out of office. Obviously, that's not so much the case with the town. However, we went away from your traditional, your firewall, in the office because people work from home, they go connect to a Starbucks or whatever. We utilize what's called a SASE solution. So essentially it's an agent that goes on every single device. And when you go connect to Starbucks or go connect to wherever, airport Wi-Fi, it creates a secure VPN tunnel that does all the things that we traditionally would use for a Cisco firewall. It's done at the workstation level. So it follows you wherever you go. It also does content filtering, intrusion prevention service, malware protection, et cetera, et cetera. And then true business continuity planning, high value data encryption at rest. One of the big things about data encryption, if you ever, or especially disk level encryption, if you ever got your computer stolen, snatch and grab were to happen, if you don't have at least disk level encryption, your data is easily retrieved off of that computer. Hopefully, if your computer was stolen, it's generally not going to be someone with IT savvy that's looking for that, but you never know, and it's very important to have that disk level encryption. Okay. Advanced endpoint security for desktops and laptops. Again, the content filtering and reporting, that's part of that SASE solution. Intrusion prevention, same. Ongoing security scanning with real-time alerts, mobile device management, and then dark web monitoring and scanning, 24/7 security operations center. One of the nice things that we also implement is access to our 24/7 security operations center. Basically, hacks don't happen during the day, during business hours. They happen in the middle of the night. We utilize a team that does the 24/7. We, of course, have certified cybersecurity experts on our team. However, when we're asleep, we want to make sure you guys are still protected. So we actually utilize a security operations center to add that. And then these are some of the things you guys already have. Same thing. And then I go back to the annual cybersecurity risk reviews. It's just something your cyber liability coverage will require. Every year you want to do that. Okay, that's kind of a summary of what we're currently doing, as well as the additions that we're proposing. And there's the cost. So a couple of things. We're replacing all of your Cisco end-of-life firewalls for free. Hardware, that's including hardware and labor. That's about $5,500 in savings. We have about 4 to replace. Replacing roughly $10,000 worth of workstations, including hardware and labor. It would be about $15,000. Project migrations, including cloud and Entra ID. I think that was a little typo. That's about $11,000 in savings. And then cloud, we would basically move all your files to SharePoint, get you guys joined to Azure AD or Entra ID, and then upgrade Office 365 Business Premium. So we're moving away from your Office 365 Standard, and we upgrade you guys to a Business Premium to utilize some of those security additions with the upgraded license. And that's all included under the contract. So, yeah, that's it. Do you guys have any questions?
Do you have any questions? Okay, go ahead. Okay.
She can go first.
I don't really have a question. I just had to call you a couple of times, and you have very friendly, excellent staff that we
thank
work
you.
with. And so.
I just talked to Kim Summers, and she said hello.
So a couple comments. The breaches, if I'm understanding right, you listed a bunch of emails with breaches, and that wasn't, if I'm understanding it right, it's not necessarily those email users' fault.
Correct.
It's like you had an account on a certain service, and that service got hacked, and your just email was like your login.
Yep, that's
okay,
exactly
so
right.
I feel like we were calling people out, but we weren't really.
No,
It
no,
was
no,
just
no.
that
I
this was-
apologize. Yeah.
okay.
Thanks for the clarification
Okay.
there.
And then it was interesting that you're going by a Microsoft score.
Yeah.
And the only way to improve it is to buy more Microsoft products.
Of course. And
so is there like another scoring method to use?
So after we're done with onboarding, we have quite a few grading systems. We have our vulnerability grading, so that will make sure you have an A there. So all of the vulnerabilities in your environment will be patched, modified, changed to get you to an A. We have the Microsoft Security Score. We're going to get you up to about 90%. As well as we also utilize a Security Operations Center. They're going to give us a score based off of what they're finding after they gain access, or after we implement, not gain access.
So it's not just Microsoft. There's a
No,
bunch of other things.
no, we have multiple
Okay.
tools.
And then I have it's more of it's not a really technical question, but if you store your data in the cloud, it's on a server somewhere else. I get that part. Is it more likely to be compromised when it's stored on a major server or less? And then as a follow-up, is it more likely that they have a backup? That we wouldn't just lose all of the data if it's on the cloud or more local?
A lot of cloud, so by default, if you just spin up a virtual machine in the cloud, by default it doesn't have a backup. You'd have to set something like that up. All that really means is most people are moving to the cloud, and they're hacking the cloud just like they're hacking the servers here locally. It's not so much saying the cloud's unsafe or worse. It's more saying that's where the migration has been going the past few years, and yeah, it's just as vulnerable as if you had a server here, if you're not providing the same security measures.
But if it's on the cloud, we have more access to. I mean, as a organization, we have more access to it from other
100%.
places. Otherwise, if it was local, we'd all have to be in the building logging. I mean,
100%, or utilize a VPN or
Right.
something of that nature. Absolutely.
So it's kind of a balance. Do we?
Yeah, really,
Is there
really.
Suggested to move local or
Personally,
cloud-based?
as long as you're doing the correct security measures, we don't care if you want to keep your data on premise. Another thing that we implement is data loss prevention policy. So what that means is it's constantly scanning to see if data is leaving your organization, going outside of your organization that has personally identifiable information. And then first, of course, we set up an alerting because it's just going to give a bunch of red flags and annoyances. Once we tune that, then we implement a block. So if there were to be a compromise, they wouldn't actually theoretically be able to exfiltrate the data, provided everything is set up and working properly. Okay. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yep. And then there was one other comment I wanted to make that kind of Wes alluded to at the beginning was it does seem like it's a big bump up in cost, but considering how much it would cost to hire an IT department, this is a very, very cost-effective method. And
Yeah,
so I think
just one IT person
we couldn't,
is
I was gonna say,
more
we couldn't
expensive
even
than,
get it for same thing. That's all I have. Thank you.
You guys have any over here comments?
do.
Or Jenny, do you have a comment? Okay.
You know,
Go
you-
ahead, Jenny. Sorry.
Another benefit here is you're waiving the onboarding fee of $2,000.
Absolutely, I didn't mention that. Yeah,
No,
you're
you did not,
absolutely
but I caught it, and I appreciate it, so thank you.
Yeah, no
You know, and just one thought here, I had a retail business, and we process credit cards for payments, because not many people will use cash or checks nowadays, and when my credit card machine would fail to transact, be it a firmware update or IP address, not being correct, we couldn't process sales, and it cripples you. Now, I could usually fix that within about half hour, 45 minutes, whatever the case is, and we're back in business again. But it's crippling for that time. Now, that's a minor problem that's fixable expediently, not compared to your data breach or that what's it called, ransomware.
Yeah.
That you are out until that is resolved, and that may take weeks or whatever the case is. So the cost of business disruption from an IT attack is much worse than my little credit card machine acting weird. So
Absolutely.
This is imperative that we do. So thank you.
No problem.
Amanda, do you have anything?
I was just really the same kind of comment that David was making. the amount that it would cost between like, you know, benefits and salary. I mean, this is incredible. Plus all of the upgrades and stuff, which I think it's long overdue, but I really love, the package that you put together, so I really appreciate that very much.
A lot of thanks goes to Wes as well. He worked with us, and he tried to make sure we're providing the best level of service. We leaned on our vendors because, you know, Wes and Carol, of course, because, you know, we want to make sure to provide a cost-effective solution for the town of Loomis. So.
Thank you. You just proved my earlier point on how he's really been doing an excellent job when it comes to negotiating all of our contracts. A lot of that are coming up, that have been coming up in just this last year. So again, thank you so much. Good job.
Before we go to the recommended action, I do want to offer the public. That's what I was about to say. Yes. Public comment? Anybody in the audience before we go to Zoom that would like to comment on this or show their concerns or anything? Nothing? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Miguel.
Yeah, hi, Miguel Yukevich, Loomis. I kind of bounced in and out of this discussion, so I'm not absolutely.
Yeah, Miguel Yukevich.
The town still could be hacked, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's important to provide as much, I mean, there's no 100% way to protect an organization. Every day, I mean, they have 0-day attacks that endpoint security or endpoint detection and response solutions just don't have, right? So for me to say there's no way this town of Loomis were to be hacked, I mean, that would be just a complete lie. However, it's very, we manage your risk, right? We help you manage your risk. We try to provide the best solutions that are available, meet all industry standards, and the hope there is we get you in a place where it's so very unlikely for you to get hacked. However, I can't say with certainty that you'll be 100% protected, of course. And that's also important why you have cyber liability coverage and meeting all of their requirements.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so if he's the only one, then we can bring it back to recommended action. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Can I take one more comment?
Yes, you can make any comments you want to.
Unless you were you going to move?
I was just going to move.
Then, I was
make
going
a
to say,
motion.
you could make it 100% unhackable if we just all went back to paper, right? And
Yeah.
we could just send letters through the UPS. Or USPS.
Yeah, however, a data breach is also an employee sending some information that has personal identifiable information. So technically, you probably couldn't get hacked because it's not digital. However, you still could be on the news with.
And nobody suggested.
Yeah.
I hope
that would be rather crazy if you guys decided to go that route.
I will if you want to make the motion.
Yeah, I make the motion to go with the recommended action, and
I hope that's not my car.
I know, I was just wondering whose car that was. But yeah, I move to make the recommendation.
So yeah. So
All right,
just
I second.
Okay. I think that's my car.
Councilmember Cortez?
Aye.
Councilmember Ring?
Yes.
Councilmember Cartwright?
Aye.
Councilmember Nisley?
Yes.
Mayor Youngblood?
Aye. Thank you very much.
No problem. You guys take care. Have a good evening.
So the last item, I think they're done, right? Okay. No, I'm talking about the cars. In case, all right, so it sounds like that stops, so I think there's no vulnerabilities on cars. So item 11, which is the last item. Oh, I wanted to make sure because it was kind of weird how, that was going on, cyber, So the last item, 11, would be the planning commissioner stipend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're
It's been a very busy month for me. I guess these are all my reports for tonight. So council identified as part of their goal setting for 2024 under Initiative 5 is, the community engagement and involvement in there, in which in there they identified that you wanted to look at the planning commission stipend and whether or not you wanted to make an adjustment in that. So it's the direction of council, staff's bringing this back. We provided kind of an area synopsis of what the stipend has been for the region and stuff. As you can see, it's kind of all over the place, and it's really just based on the jurisdictions and their opinion on it. So what staff does, it was looking for council to deliberate on the item, but If council does wish to amend the compensation from the planning commission, staff is recommending that you focus on amending the Loomis Municipal Code to delegate the authority by resolution to amend the stipend for the commissioners. Focus on that, and then we could bring it back at the time when if it is adopted by council, to delegate it down by resolution to council to a future meeting, be a resolution to make those changes. So then it's still a public process that council still, it's still agendized. Council still has to act on it in a public manner. The public has a right to comment on it. It just eliminates some of the nuances of the cost of doing the action, because right now, if you were to decide to change the compensation, we would have to bring back a resolution, notice that resolution in the paper, and then have a second reading and a second notice in there, and then it would get approved, and they would have a 30-day cooling period on there. So it's, in this case, example, it's almost costs more to do the process than the actual increase. So with that, staff will turn it over to council for discussion and direction.
Can I start? I actually started out as planning commissioner, and I will say, and I was planning commissioner during the general plan. They go over a lot of literature, readings, findings. The $50, and I know that we're all kind of part-time here, so I'm not trying to advocate that they become full-time. However, they do stuff that the average town citizens wouldn't even dream of, or wouldn't even think about. Like, it's a thankless job. I can tell you there's times during the RV park when people are coming in, they look at us as we're the criminals, or why is it that you can't, and all they do is review planning documents and the general plan, things like that, and ordinances. And they are basically the judge, and they do a lot of stuff that I'm very glad that I got elected, because that's a very hard job, and I think that they actually need, despite what you say, I understand what you're saying, but I still think it's worth it for them to get a cost of living, so to speak, even if it's $25, because like I said, that's a thankless job, and not everybody, if they got in and did it, would want to continue doing it. I mean, they do a lot of work for us, and they do a lot of work for the staff, and all of the plans and projects that come through, they're actually the ones that help with, the planning commission, even though it hasn't met for the last 3 months. What I'm trying to say is they work extremely hard, and they get paid almost nothing for all the work that they do. So I still think we should pursue giving them a cost of living, even if it's $1. I mean, because I'm telling you, I did it for 2 years, and I applaud them for even volunteering, basically volunteering, because after taxes, it's very minimal. So that's I'm getting off my soapbox.
I do think that there needs to be an increase, but I do think that we should probably change this process to what you were explaining, so it can be done by a resolution, so it doesn't cost as much. We are keepers of the budget. We already know
right
what, and so we would be responsible enough to be able to have that open discussion in public.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say that.
Anyway.
Yeah. I was just trying to say, let's not discourage it, because it is worth it, but yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. She was reaching. I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, whoever was first, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that, we can have the discussion later about how much we are increasing. I think that's totally, we need time to think about that. But I think that changing the process is the right thing to do. I had a question that I asked Wes, but I was supposed to ask Jeff, but I didn't have time to. We had talked earlier about requiring a application to be submitted to be on the planning commission. And we all kind of, this is earlier, we all kind of agreed that was the right thing to do. Is that something that we can or should add to since we are adjusting the code now? Is that something we should put in?
I'll let you decide on the should, but you certainly can.
Okay, okay, got it. So is that something, and we wouldn't be doing it now, we would just be directing.
Well, I think what Wes is suggesting is we would have to come back with an ordinance. The ordinance would change the language in the municipal code to say compensation will be set by resolution. You could have a resolution that night that sets compensation, or, well, you couldn't do it that night because the ordinance takes 30 days to go into effect, but 30 days after passage, you could come back. That same ordinance can make other changes if you feel there are other changes that need to be made.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think, for me personally, I would like to see it codified in the code that says, you should have to submit an application to be on the planning commission.
You submit an application anyway, but the thing is that.
That we get to
I'm
see
sorry,
it. Yeah.
Mike. So you submit an application anyway, but the difference is that if a person were to be elected and they didn't have within their personal social sphere a candidate who was willing and able to serve on planning commission, then by having the application process, if there were some applicants from the community, right, it would give that newly elected person an option because they would have something to look at. So it's a good idea. Like I say, having options is better than having no options.
That's true.
So, but I support modifying the ordinance to delegate the authority to the staff, or correction, to the council here by resolution as far as the compensation. And the amount can be discussed later, but I'm supportive of that.
Thank you.
I also support delegating by resolution. I would just say, though, Mayor, that we are all pretty much volunteers, and and as you said, and I'm not against giving them a raise. I think it needs to wait until, like Jenny said, that we are the keepers of the budget, and we know right now this is not the time because it was not budgeted for. But I'm definitely not opposed to changing it. But we, like you said, that the last 3 months has been canceled and stuff like that. So we're all volunteers. We all put in a lot of hours at our stipend, you know what I mean? So we do this as a public service. We don't do this for the money. But I do not oppose
You know what I mean?
it.
We are
I
elected.
don't oppose it, but I think that it's very important that is addressed. Also, about the applications. But you are still not saying that we do not have autonomy to be able to appoint someone. You just want to see the application.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as the table here for the stipend, there is the meeting frequency component where you could be compensated per meeting or per month. And I think for ease of accounting and just daily operations, it's one less question to ask if we were to just make it per month rather than per meeting. And that way it's an automated process. And the more automated processes we have at the staff level, the easier life is to have the capacity to react to the weird stuff that comes up inevitably. So I'm in favor, if in the ordinance rewrite, that we include that it remains at the compensation is one time per month, not per meeting.
I agree with that.
Just to clarify, would that have to be in the code, or would we just say that the council, like if we're doing it by
Or
resolution?
you could say compensation will be set by resolution, and the resolution
I
could
agree.
do that.
And then we can discuss that. I mean, I agree that it should be per month, but it's something that I think we would just let the council decide.
Sorry
The council will decide.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't feel like we should put the per month or per meeting in the Loomis code. It should stay as a resolution when we discuss how much we're gonna, if there's any. Okay.
Before we go forward with the recommended action, I'm going to stay with the pattern tonight and open it up to public comment for them to.
Madam Mayor.
Wait, Jenny, I apologize.
I just had one other thing to say, is because it was talked about having 3 months of no meetings, but how about all those months of general plan meetings?
Yes, that's true.
It just all kinds of balances out
You're
with different
right.
types of what comes up. We don't know what's going to happen, so.
You're right, Jenny.
So, Madam Mayor, if I may, before you open up the public comment, you're talking about frequency of compensation in there. From an accounting standpoint and payroll, that's where this goes through. Typically, you see an organization, they will amortize the compensation over the 26-week pay period and those types of things. So it's a consistent number for every pay period. So you're not, and you get the months where there's 3 paychecks, you're not looking at reducing that compensation on the third one, so we have to do a manual entry override and do those things. So it's easier if you look at it from a standpoint of the total compensation per year is this, and you break it out in the 26 pay period so it's consistent. The availability for human error is less in those opportunities, and just something to think about.
Appreciate that. I think we all kind of agree with that, correct? So that part, so now I'm going to open up to public comment for them to come up and express how they feel as well. And then we can do the recommended action.
Hi, Linda Kelly, Vice Chair of the Planning Commission, Madam Mayor and Town Council and staff. I'm glad to be here, even though they were the last thing on the thing tonight. I just want to keep you up to date of where this came from. 2 years ago, Sean Raby, along with Roger Carroll, approved the funds for an increase in the Planning Commission stipend, pending the approval from the Town Council. Then tragedy happened with the death of Roger Carroll, and then Sean took another job in Auburn. Fast forward to where we are today. It has been 20 years since an adjustment has been made in our stipend, and we currently receive $50 a month, and with taxes taken out, we receive $46.17. If you understood how much time is spent on reviewing our packets and study materials for our meetings, I think you would be surprised. Some of you were on the Planning Commission before your term on the Town Council, so you understand. We all try very hard to come prepared to discuss and hear the constituents' concerns over issues and make informed recommendations to the Town Council that they can rely on, not to mention all the time it took to update the general plan. So a meeting was held with the Town Council to determine their goals for the year, and an increase in our stipend was on that list. This was something they wanted to move forward with. I believe the meeting was held close to a year ago, if a little less, and after this meeting it was to be presented to the Town Council for a vote, but never ended up on the agenda. Also, it never ended up on the budget for this year for some reason. I asked Wes about this mistake, and he said he forgot and that it could be put in with an amendment by the Town Council. We are not asking for much, possibly just half of what you get, even though we do a lot of work and you do even more than us. I'm hoping it will finally happen tonight, but obviously it sounds like not, and not get put off another full fiscal year. For the time and dedication our Planning Commission puts into their appointment, it's well worth the money. Thank you for their time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jane?
Jane Wilson, 4301 Barton Road, and former and current planning commissioner, formerly 20 years on the planning commission and 2 years in this time. I was around in 2004 when we got the raise from $25 to $50. I don't remember what the council was getting then, which is really not the point. But Ralph and I did a little inflation checking, and that $50 then now is worth about $25 and some odd cents, maybe depending on which inflation factor, maybe as much as $28. And that's over 20 years. Now, nobody is doing this job for the money. The $46.17 is after deductions, and then you get to pay taxes on it after that. Nobody does it for the money. You do it because you care about the town. You're trying to do a service. But I think the stipend that we get does represent some kind of acknowledgement by the town and recognition of the time and work that we are doing. It may appear that we didn't do anything or there's nothing going on because meetings were canceled, but we don't get something until a project is ready. It has to be ready to go, or Christie is not going to waste our time or the applicant's time. Yet we always have to set aside and know every month that we have to plan that we're going to be at that meeting. And starting the Thursday before, when we get a packet, you don't know how big that packet might be over that weekend, what you're going to have to spend time doing. just because we haven't had a meeting doesn't necessarily mean nothing's going on. Sometimes we get DEIRs to comment on maybe a binder that thick. We may have meetings with developers. There are other kinds of trainings. You guys have to do Brown Act ethics, stuff like that. And we have other trainings that we have to go to. So I think it's a matter of acknowledging the kind of level of work that we have to do and what's coming up for us. Look at all the projects coming up that we're going to have to be doing and put time into. We research the laws, try to keep up on housing, all those kinds of things. And I think we really should have a serious look at acknowledging it's been 20 years and the $25 worth that it's worth now compared to $50 then. You really need to take another look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Anybody else in the audience want to comment on that before we go to Zoom? Okay, we can go to Zoom now.
Go ahead, Pam.
Hi there, Pam Blake. I have no problem with them getting a modest increase, even though it's not in the budget. I have no problem with that, but it was mentioned it was easier, payroll-wise to do this every month, whether they have a meeting or not. And there was 3 planning commission meetings that were, canceled this year. I did hear what Jean said, that even though there weren't meetings, that they're still, reviewing and meeting with developers, but having a background in payroll and personnel, I think it should be done by meeting, etc., and not automatically getting paid once a month, because it's easier. And I do know our planning commission does a great job in researching everything, and Jean always has really good questions, to ask. So that's my 2 cents. $50 is nothing with taxes, etc. They should get more money. They should get more money. They should get more money, but I just have the objection about getting paid every month, whether there's a meeting or not. Thank you.
Okay. So it looks like that's the last person, so we can bring it back to the council. Does anybody want to make a motion to? Yeah, you do.
Staff is looking for direction tonight from council on how you'd like to proceed.
So, yeah.
I already said I'd like to have it go to the resolution so that we can.
Make the motion.
We still have to.
You said we don't need a motion.
Because
We're
here's
being
the
told we
thing,
don't.
what if somebody didn't want it, then they could say, I don't agree
Amanda,
with
he's
it.
saying we don't need to make an
Right.
emotion. I don't know what.
There is no need for a
Unanimously,
motion.
we all agree, so,
Yes.
okay. Okay,
So
We are just looking for direction, a consensus of direction on what you would like us to bring forward next time. There's
Okay.
no vote tonight on there. We just need to know what we're bringing forward
so
for your
can I,
consideration.
can I ask then, based on what he said before we went to public comment, does everybody agree or disagree on monthly versus meeting? So that's 2 things to consider, and then once we discuss unanimously, we'll let you. So, but
The issue is whether the authority will reside with the council by resolution, and then
Okay, then let's
and then
discuss that.
and then to achieve that, we'd have to modify the existing ordinance for that.
Okay,
So
well,
the question is, are we modifying the existing
The
ordinance?
monthly by meeting is, we'll decide
Right.
that later.
so do we all agree that we need to?
Yeah, it seemed like we all agreed
Yes.
that it should be moved from the code, the municipal
Yes.
code, to a resolution.
Yes,
Yes.
that's
And to do that, though, we have to amend the code and we have to notice it. So we have to notice it next month, notice it the following month, vote on it in December, right? And then it could start in January if we made,
30 days after.
so.
Yeah. And
But
then-
either way, if we do that, either way, it has to be that way.
Right, and then if it's the council's direction, what I think it is that we would bring it back for discussion to adopt via resolution to consider amending their compensation, increasing
Yes.
it if you want at that time.
And then the issue with the adding the application requirement to the code.
Jeff, you were saying that that wasn't necessary to add to the code, the distribution of application?
That's up to you all. Right now, you don't have an application process. Each council member appoints a commissioner.
Right.
But if you want to have a process for applications to be submitted, we can certainly do that. I don't know that you want to slow this piece down for that.
I don't want to.
So but if we can come up with some language in time for next meeting,
Okay.
then.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if it's gonna delay this, then again, no, because it hasn't been there for a long time. But I figure my thought process was, we're already about to modify the code. Why not just tack this on there anyway? Okay.
The thought was good, but yeah.
Okay, so staff will bring back an ordinance for consideration to amend the code to delegate the stipend authority for the commissioners via resolution, and that will come forward to the next meeting for the first read.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are almost done. We have a couple more things. Well, last thing is the committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? Okay.
Well, for the Economic Development Board, they sent out an email, they were wanting to connect with, oh, sorry. The Economic Development Board, they were looking to connect with a few businesses in each municipality to do a program called expansion, retention, and that's what I was looking for the email. Anyways, to help them to expand their business, to retain, and to expand. So, anyways, I was able to connect them with Salty's Barbershop, Strombaum Management Properties, and then I believe Reds is also working on having an interview with them. But I'm really excited to see what that, how that all works out to be able to help out our small businesses. But other than that, I don't have any other reports.
Okay.
I just have one quick one. So I usually meet on the first Saturday of the month, just informally with anybody who wants to show up at the depot here. But the first Saturday of October is going to be the Fruit Shed Fest, and so I'm planning on being at the Fruit Shed Fest Loomis tent. And so if you want to talk to me, I will be free to talk to you there. So, but I will not be in the depot for that meeting. Okay, thanks.
Jenny, you have anything? And again, the Public Safety Committee met last month. We we're planning towards the Public Safety Fair at the end of the month, and again, hope you all come out. It's going to be a lot of fun and very informative and worth your while. Other than that, I think we are good, and let's go ahead and adjourn.